Get ready for I Ain't Your Black. This is the podcast that offers healing, insights, and epiphanies. Discussing and reviewing everything others are afraid to talk about. It's all about what is right for us. I ain't your new black. I ain't your old black. I ain't your future black. America! I ain't your black. And now, the hosts of I Ain't Your Black, Mr. Just As Joe and Uncle Bijan.
You gotta be like,
What's up, Joe? How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How are you doing there, brother?
Man, it's another fine day. This Tuesday in the new month of May. I got a lot going on. We just celebrated Mother's Day. Then I got my wife's birthday and my mother's birthday all in the month of May, man. So I'm about to go a little broke. Okay,
Wow.
To go a little broke.
Wow. So you just basically save up and make sure that May happens, boy.
Just make sure it may happen, bro. I mean, it is what it is, brother. You know, when May come around, I'm already know I'm in for it, bro. Mother's
Day, wife's birthday, and mother's birthday.
Ooh.
So, you know, your mother gets it twice. so you know that is the month of May. You may be tired.
Yeah. So.
In the month of May, that is absolutely. So what's been going on, man? What's been going on since the last show?
Well, there's a lot going on, man. I'm gonna just tell you something, man. I feel like a brand new guy. You know, I've been talking about being a descendant of American slaves. All right, I've been claiming that now ever since Noah Shelton told me about the book, America's Little Black Book. And so I've been comfortable denouncing the color construct. And everybody know I wrote a book, I'm Not Your Black America, identifying myself as a descendant of American slaves. But let me tell you what has happened, man. I done made contact with this organization called Freeman Nation, the Freeman Nation. And I made contact with them, and they told me to go and get verified, to go and just look into it. A Saturday. Get verified. So Joe, I went ahead, put my mother and father's name in there, and then I put my grandmother and my grandfather name in there, and man, this thing recomputed, and man, it went all the way to 1862. My great grandmother Martha. I can't even pronounce the last name. I'm not even gonna try. I think I jacked it up. This great grandma Martha, 1862. Man, I feel like a new man.
It's a long last name.
No, I just have a weird panic. It has a weird way it's spelled. I've never even seen this type of name.
Let's not try it, man. Because
I'm not even gonna try it.
You mess up first name sometimes, so we're not even gonna try that last name.
Hey, man, but I will tell you, man, it feels pretty good to confirm that I am a freeman. I am a freeman.
So what does that mean that you're a freeman?
Slave. So what that means is that the Freeman Bureau.
So you're an official descendant of American slave.
I can confirm it, that my ancestor, great grandmother, was born before 1870, and that's how the Census Bureau acknowledges that anyone born before, and they acknowledge it, you are probably a freeman, descendants of American slaves. It's more confirmed. It's not. See, you understand? I was talking about it before, but now I can actually confirm that Uncle Michon is a freeman descendant.
I know personally. My family lineage is by way of Jamaica,
right?
And so the story goes three sibling brothers went to Jamaica, and we're debating on whether it's British or Scottish. British makes sense because there was the whole slave trade with sugar and rum and whatnot, and plus they took back then they took men to Jamaica to emasculate them, and which is why Jamaica has always been against the whole homosexuality thing, because that was where they took men to emasculate them. And so with that in mind, it's three sibling brothers that moved to Jamaica, and they pretty much had sex with everything that moved.
Wow.
So I got a large family in Jamaica, that's for sure. And
so your last name Tapper, so that Tapper name is strong out there in Jamaica, right?
Yeah. And actually, I got a cousin on here that's saying Ireland. So, three Irish brothers from Jamaica that they so it's been since like Facebook and social media platforms that people have found that they had like 25 brothers and sisters in the next borough. You know what I mean? So,
So I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and clown a little bit, man, because you talk about what I've learned, man. So what I was finding out that I was calling people international. People international when you came from. You're not born here in America, but you come in. You know the immigrants, international. But I've been in these spaces on X, man. You're considered a tethered. You know what a tethered is? You ever heard that terminology before?
No. What's a tethered?
Tethered. Okay. It's someone who's not born here in America and you're an immigrant and you can claim another state before America. You are considered a tethered.
Now, I was born here in the United States, of course, but my family lineage.
But you can claim another state, another country as your home before America, right?
No, because America. I was born in America.
Okay, but what's your bloodline?
My bloodline, by way of my father, stems back to Jamaica. But I was born here in America.
But you was born here.
Yeah. So it's just the family lineage goes back by way of Jamaica, and large family from one borough to the next. People didn't know that they had brothers and sisters and all this stuff, and when I was 13, I think a family member put together a newsletter, and it was like 3,000 of us then, or something like that. Something crazy, And so now, 30 years later, there's a bunch of us tappers. But with that in mind, man, we want to get into some of the meat of the show here. Let's do a quick little what is right for us. Because or you know what? How about this? We'll do let's go ahead. Let's do
what is right for us, man? We there's a lot.
Black people wake up and become intellectually independent enough.
So this is where we talk about what is right for us as a people. Is there any thoughts in mind this week of what is right for us?
Did it right on time, man. Let's go back to the Freeman Nation. So what is happening is the Freeman Nation has actually established a trust. And this trust now, you can go to freemannation.org, okay? freemannation.org.
And that's FREEDMEN Nation.org.
Right.
All right.
And they have created also a trust. You can't get in the trust until you get verified. Okay, you got to be verified. So your lineage have to be shown that someone was born here. As I stated earlier, I found out that my great-grandmother was born in 1862. So with that piece of knowledge, and that's just off my father's side, I can claim and I can get verified to be in part of this trust. What's interesting about this trust, that it is a self-governing trust. What is right for us? So we're looking to say that we no longer needing America to drop us off any reparation. We actually going to be able to get private equity, private companies, and people. There are businesses and corporations out here that has made their money off of our ancestors. So we're going to give them a place so they can drop some revenue in there, and we're creating it ourselves. I am very excited about that because now we get the opportunity to say, I don't need you, America. I'm not waiting on you anymore. That word inheritance, we literally setting ourselves up for everyone that gets into the trust. Once it gets to a certain amount, you will get an inheritance check. Let me say it again. You will get an inheritance check from that trust until you die.
Interesting. Okay, so y'all go check it out when you get a chance. freedmennation.org. That's FREEDMEN nation.org. And
it doesn't cost you anything to go and discover whether or not you qualify as a freedman. That's the beauty.
Now, did you have to do this? Upload your census record?
Oh, I went there. Once you go to there's a link that you actually go to, and it helps you to find that. And yes, you have to upload all your stuff in there, and then the genealogy from Freeman
they
Nation.
say accepted sources include Ancestry.com, Family Search,
MyHeritage. I went to Family Search. Family Search is what I went to, and I found my stuff, man. I feel like a new man. So what is right for us? Anybody who wants to claim or want to find out, and that is what is right for us. If you want to know if you are actually a descendant of American slave, go to Freeman Nation and search yourself out in the genealogy status check and find out, and it doesn't cost you anything to find out.
Awesome.
So that's what is right for us. I'm glad we brought that in. That was good play.
Good stuff. So, all right, so we're going to check that out and talk about what is right for us. So when you talk inheritance, when you talk
no longer waiting.
What's the other word? What's the other word that people use instead of inheritance? Reparations.
So,
reparations. Even though that's the wrong terminology, right? Because reparations is something you give to people that have been done a wrong, right? So Africa is the ones that should actually receive
a lot of people push back when I talk about that, man. They say,
inheritance as children of this
America.
nation, and inheritance is what we are due. So ultimately, if you're talking inheritance, if you're talking reparations, then you definitely should go check out the Freedman Nation. Again, freedmennation.org. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and jump into a little conversation real quick about unlearn to relearn.
Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? So much so that you don't want to be around each other.
Yeah,
all right.
What a great sway into unlearn to relearn. So let me go ahead. That's in my book. I talk about it constantly in my book. The what is it? I was going to say Uncle Tom. The Uncle Tom narrative. We're going to have to unlearn what we originally was taught about Uncle Tom and relearn that Uncle Tom is not the guy that we need to be concerned with. It's Sambo. But Uncle Tom...
People actually don't know the story. They still don't know the story of Uncle Tom.
People don't even know the story. They misconstrue. Maybe we ask our guests about it. I love to get my guests to talk about what he knows about the Uncle Tom.
We'll get into that. But right now, for Unlearn to Relearn, I just learned something today that in African etymology, then Africa used to be called Alkebulan.
Akabula.
It's taught that Africa was originally referred to that before European history took it and turned it into the term Africa.
And tell him what it means, though. That's probably the big part about it. Tell him what it means.
Well, let's look at it, and let's see if we can get some better understanding here. It says Al-Kabulin, one school of thought, argues that Africa was originally referred to as Al-Kabulin by its people long before the name Africa came about. Al-Kabulin is an indigenous term that wasn't given to Africans by Europeans. In the book Kemetic History of Africa, celebrated Senegalese historian, the late Dr. I cannot, but I'm going to try. Sheikh Anta Diop asserts that the ancient name of Africa was Al-Kabulan, meaning mother of mankind or garden of Eden. The name Al-Kabulin, he writes, was used by the Moors, Nubians, Ethiopians, and other indigenous people. This theory aligns with Kemetic, Egyptian religious, and Ethiopian texts that anoint Africa as the genesis of creation, which, I mean, we kind of know that, right?
We are kind of
even biblically, you know, you could pretty much take your finger and point to a dot in Africa, and that's where like everything in the Bible happened, right? Outside of the missing years where Jesus was traveling and learning about other cultures and religions and things of that nature.
For those people who's concerned about what this space is all about, you know, I ain't your black. You know, we're trying to dismiss the ideology that everyone were born and forced to accept that ideology or that box of black. There's a tremendous amount of things that we need to come from under the color construct. And one of the things is start relearning or unlearning away from the previous taught things of people who were born before 1960. All of us born after 1960, we, especially our men, we can now speak for ourselves. We can now decide who we are, just like I'm saying now that I'm a freeman. You know, I'm claiming that I don't no longer want to identify to the color construct. And so that's what this space is all about. We come here, try to have a little fun. We come here, want to drop some good information. But the truth of the matter is, we here to celebrate the book that I wrote as well. I'm Not Your Black America. And also my new webpage, man. You know.
What's the new webpage? Go ahead and shout it out.
Yeah, my new webpage, man, just dropped officially yesterday. Time to unlearn to relearn.com. Let me say that again. I love the title of that. Time to unlearn to relearn.com. It's my new website. It's the new flavor. It is officially up and ready to go. And it goes right along with this unlearn to relearn. Okay. It's time for us to get away from the once taught and bred based on a color construct. It's time to unlearn and relearn. And I'm really excited about this new look there, man. Do you like it, man? Look at it, man.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And you can go here and you can chat with Uncle Michon. Just hit the text. So if you angry and you mad at something Uncle Michon did to you, then just go to timetounlearntorelearn.com and you can chat right here.
There.
You can tap there and talk to Uncle Michon and you know, tell him about himself. All right, tell him about himself.
Tell me about myself. Yeah, you can come in and have a little conversation with me and thing. And my people will talk back to you.
Absolutely. No, well, you gotta let them think that they're talking to Uncle Michon. You're talking to Uncle Michon. You're talking right directly to Uncle Michon when you hit that button there. All right. So that's it for Time to Unlearn to Relearn and that segment of the show. What we'll do, folks, we'll go ahead and get into our main topic here. What we want to do is bring on our next guest, and we will do that here in about 50 seconds.
Get ready for I Ain't Your Flag. This is the podcast that offers healing, insight, and epiphany. Discussing and reviewing everything others are afraid to talk about. It's all about what is right for us. I ain't your new black. I ain't your old black. I ain't your future black. America! I ain't your black. And now, the hosts of I Ain't Your Black, Mr. Just As Joe and Uncle Mishore.
We got a mean like.
You know, I am excited about this gentleman, Dr. Bennie Wade, man. He's a new friend that came into my life, man, and I came through. I try to remember. I think either Peter turned me on to introduce me to him, but I know I got involved with him through the unification. I believe it was through the unification, and then I learned that his church was right around the corner from where I live. Man, I didn't even realize it. It was the very first time I went to learn more about who they were. Went looking for it, come to find it was right up the road and everything. So I find my man, Dr. Bennie Wade, to be a very interesting person. I want to read something. It says, Dr. Bennie Wade is a breath of fresh air. He has a vision, an excitement, a commitment, and his brain reads faster than the furious, what says turbulence on a 747. You know, I can jack up words and everything.
You can.
Pastor. He is the pastor, teacher, preacher, mentor, author, songwriter, entrepreneur, conference speaker, and friend. Bennie L. Wade Sr. was born June 29, 1963, Lakewood, Ohio. From the very young age, he was developed the gospel in 1979. Bishop Wade began fulfilling his calling to the ministry. And I'm going to stop there because we're going to learn a lot more about him. This gentleman, I call him brother, I call him friend, and I call him my long-term person because he read my book, and I think he learned a little bit more about me. So no further ado, let's
go ahead and bring
brother.
Dr. Wade to the stage here, folks. Again, it is Dr. Bennie Wade. Come on up. Hey, Dr. Wade, how you doing there, brother?
How you doing, brother? How you doing?
Hey, my brother. Good. Mr. Just Ask Joe. Nice to chat with you too earlier.
Absolutely.
Bless you guys. This is a really good show. I like it. I like the style of it.
We try to be a little different. Everybody want to get on there and argue and fuss about stuff, man. We try to make this thing a little education. It's a spinoff from my book. You know, I'm Not Your Black. Trying to get out of that color construct. I believe if I can leave my legacy, Bennie, just keep it in real. You don't mind me calling you Bennie here, right?
No, you're fine. My mother named me Bennie. It's my favorite name.
Is that when I realized, as you have read my book as well, the color construct has been a terrible thing in our country. It has paralyzed and divided so many people and everything, but nobody really want to talk about it. And I really what I found it very interesting to see if you agree with this, is that I believe culturally our men were forced or were prevented from being able to talk about it. So part of the reason why culturally it's gone on for so long, think about it. It's unnatural for a men to not be able to defend themselves from a predator, right? Culturally, our men were prevented from being the men to protect themselves from the predator on them. And now we're just learning how to do that. And so that's part of why I wrote my book and everything. So, you know, what three chapters you liked about my book?
Hey, I got to tell you first, part of my fan club's here, and she's just dying to say hello.
Oh, who's that? Oh, is that Daisy?
It is.
Hey, what's up? How you doing, honey?
I'm good, baby. How are you?
Hey, listen, I'm doing much better. I just found out I'm a Freeman, so I found my great great grandmother, 1862. So I feel like a whole new man. And
Well, hey,
everything.
let's talk about the Freeman's Bureau. Is that okay?
Well,
Sure.
I figured you would know something about that. But before we do
Yeah.
that, tell everybody a little bit about you, man.
Um, I serve as the presiding bishop of the International Circle of Faith. We have about 40,000 ministers. We're in every country in the world, just about. We're very large in Africa. In fact, we have a team on the ground right now in Cameroon. They just finished commencement exercises. We have over 50 campuses of our college, which is Life College. It's a college based right here in the state of Kentucky, recognized by the Kentucky Department of Post-Secondary Education. We're a license exempt school. We've been around since 1932. One of the things with our college is we want to empower people with education.
Right.
And so we have another team on the headed for Pakistan right now. So we're doing a lot of work internationally, trying to, spread the good news, spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. So,
But Bernie, do
that's what
you
we
have
do.
some reputable people or stars of people who actually have been certificate from your school? Well, who's a couple of them, man, that actually got their doctorate from your school?
Well, probably the biggest one in the news, so to speak, right now is Dr. Paula White, who's working for the president, Bishop Noel Jones, Bishop Paul Morton, Joel Osteen, Joel's wife Victoria.
You said Joe Osteen? Did you say Joe Osteen?
Yes, sir. Yeah, Joel has his Doctor of Literature, based on using his first book. His first book was his doctoral dissertation for his PhD.
Wow.
So we have very prestigious alumni. Former president of Benin, Matthew Karakou. Just goes on and on. The former president of Ghana, who's deceased, John Adam Mills. President Mills received me when I went to Ghana in 2010. President Mills received me. Had a member of his staff meet me at the airport and escorted me. So yeah, it's really nice. We all like to be treated nice.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure people understand that you're nothing to shook at. You really have a school that very very reputable people have gotten their doctrine from your school. So I commend you for that work you have done there. I want you to you read my book, and I don't when I met you, I was already writing my book and everything.
Right.
And when I asked you to read my book, you intentionally took the time, and I respect you for that. You gave it. When I give people ask me to read my book and everything, people kind of put you off and everything. I really want to give you props that you took the time and you read my book. So tell everybody who's listening to this when they hear this, when you first hear the title, "I'm Not Your Black America," as a man of faith, as a person and who understand the word of God and understand that who I was speaking to, what was your first take when you thought about it?
Well, it's so abstract. It's outside of what we would probably consider the societal norm. It's kind of like I'll give you a scriptural reference. There's a place in the Old Testament where the kings are trying to decide whether to go to battle.
Right.
And they bring in all these prophets, and they're like, "Yeah, go up. You're going to be great." Yada yada yada. Right? They're all doing this thing, and then they go and then the one king goes, "Hey, you got any other prophets here?" And he's like, "Yeah, we got one guy, but I hate him." You hate him. Yeah, it was pretty crazy, right? But go get him. And he said, they go get Micaiah. And Micaiah comes up, prophesies, yeah, you're not going to prosper. You're all going to die. And, and so it's, wow, and so when I read your book, it was like, oh my God.
You see these
not
hats?
Gonna like me showing because everybody else saying the same thing, man.
You see these hats Joe and I got on.
Everybody in NCAA, says the same thing. They're all talking about whatever they're saying. But guess what happened? We just had a whole revolution take place in the NCAA, right?
Right.
With NIH money, NIL money. I mean, so the same thing. Hey, let's look at another big group, NAACP. They're all saying the same thing. And here comes me shorting, and I'm like, oh no, he ain't reading off the same sheet of music.
I'm trying to keep it 100. See that? See those hats we have on? We trying to. I'm gonna get you one.
Oh, I see it. Oh yeah, 100.
Try to keep it 100. That's the Uncle Me showing brand. So what you say when you read that book? Was I trying to keep it 100?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I like the read. The read of your book was because I like people that can think. I don't have to agree with them.
Right.
No, I pretty much agree with you. We know that, but I mean, even if I didn't agree with you,
right,
we could dialogue. I mean, how do we ever bring anything if we can't talk to each other?
Big problem.
How do you communicate with your spouse, your kids, your family, if there's no dialogue, if you're not talking to each other? And you guys just in listening there for a few minutes, you hit on all kinds of things. You're talking about the original name of Africa. Okay. Well, can I just throw my 2 cents worth into the mix?
Yeah, you up, bro?
Because the name you use is great, but if you're not Arabic, that name doesn't really mean a lot. But the closest language, and I could be wrong, but I understand that the closest language to Egyptian, which is an African language, we would all agree, is Hebrew.
Right.
And you know what they called Africa?
What did they call Africa?
Kush.
Mm-hmm. Kush. I've heard
Land of Kush.
Land of Kush. Yes.
So, yeah. But but we hear these things and we go, wow. And maybe in the huge process of the world, it doesn't matter. But I loved your reference to Uncle Tom, and I'm going to tell you why. Because that we actually had an Uncle Tom.
Mm-hmm.
He was a real guy.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that?
And it's nothing like what people,
there was actually a person who was Uncle
today.
Tom. Right. Yeah, right.
Yeah, because do you know who Uncle Tom was?
He was a gentleman that was trying to protect some people that tried to run away, and the master came and said, basically, make a long story short, he said, don't be like Uncle Tom, because Uncle Tom got his butt kicked.
Uncle John got killed. Yeah,
got killed by master.
Yeah, and he came back and said, don't be Uncle Tom, and the slave misconstrued it and got it twisted. So
don't be a snitch.
Don't be a snitch.
The reality was don't be like
don't be
him.
Trying to liberate yourself.
Yeah, don't be trying to hide things from me, protect your people, because that's what Uncle Tom did.
So Uncle Tom's character is a deeply religious preacher to his fellow slaves who preaches non-resistance. And 100 years later, we had a literal person do that very thing. And I do anyway, I'm sure you do too. We admire the Reverend Martin Luther King.
Right.
A preacher who preached non-resistance. And of course, the novel Uncle Tom is flogged to death or killed because he refuses to inform.
Right.
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 And
That was
of
his
course,
whole.
we know Dr. King was also killed. So to throw down that on someone as an Uncle Tom is such an insult
Right.
to me. If you said, your friend Uncle Mishor, and he's Uncle Tom, I'm like, whoa, that's a good thing.
Yeah. I
He's a
embrace
guy
it.
going against the system,
Right.
trying to preach. We're not trying to start a revolution like armed resistance. We're trying to preach nonviolence, but hey,
Right.
we can make a difference. We can change our world. I've been down, you guys, I assume, were both in Louisville. I've been down to Louisville when they were doing some of the protests and stuff. And I was like, hey, there are people outside. Now, the politicians didn't really care much. Let's be honest. Politicians didn't show up. You had like 6 people running for mayor. Did any of them? None of them showed up. I can answer the question for you. They never came down there and talked to the protesters. Why? Because they just look down their long noses at them, right?
Right.
So you and I have talked about this, Mishorn, because I got into writing a book about a composer. His name is Thurl Harris, and his father was a freedman.
Wow.
And was a candidate for lieutenant governor for the state of Virginia.
Whoa.
Why didn't he become lieutenant governor of the state of Virginia? Because he was black.
Identified as black, right?
He was black.
No, what I'm saying, the color.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
He was a very dark-skinned guy. He was married to a white lady, and her uncle was the governor of the state of Ohio.
Wow.
So this is the Freedmen's Bureau. They met at the Freedmen's Bureau. Thurl Harris's father, Dr. Harris, was a surgeon.
So
and his mother was a teacher in the Freedmen's Bureau.
So Bernie, in that same vein, and I'm just curious to see because I'm glad that you went there. So there is a misunderstanding of the Freeman terminology, because when you look up the Freeman, it has to do with the 6 tribes, okay, that had owned slaves and everything. And when America stopped doing slavery, they freed the slaves, but the slaves that were on the reservations and everything was still slaves. And so they had what the story is that the United States had to go to these 6 tribes to get them to negotiate to free those slaves off those reservations. So the term freeman was also associated to that. So you have people who saying that, oh, I don't want to use the word freeman because it has to do with Indians and everything. But I want to say, wasn't the Freeman Bureau in place way before the Indians? And I want to is that not correct?
Right, the Freedmen's Bureau. So it came out of the abolitionist movement, and it actually, before the Civil War, it existed. Whether I'm not an expert on the Freedmen's Bureau, but whether it existed in principle or in reality, it doesn't matter, because people like the aforementioned Dr. Harris, they literally started a colony in Haiti, and they were taking former slaves. They were getting their freedom, and before the Civil War, and taking them to Haiti and started a colony there, where they would be free, so they could live outside of the construct. So the purpose of the Freedmen's Bureau after the war, let me give you a great example, since we're all Kentucky people here. After the Civil War, I live in Henry County, and in the next county over is Trimble County. And these 2 counties, like in the town where I live, Sulphur, Kentucky, there was a school here that they called a colored school. in those days. Okay. There also was a woman's school and there was a business school. The business school centered mainly on banking. A lot of the banks, especially the East End banks, got their start from people who went to school here in Sulphur, Kentucky. Okay. But when the Civil War ended, they came to this town, and you can go to the Historical Society here in Henry County and in Trimble County. They've done a great job of cataloging this and recording it. You talk about profiling. If you were of color, they put you on wagons and made you leave. It didn't matter that you were educated, that you were like one of the most educated people to that is of a black gentleman was Dr. Forey, and he pastored for like 35 years Christ Temple there in Louisville.
Christ Temple
From Sulphur, Kentucky. See, but they made all of those people, they made them all get on wagons, and they took them down to the west end of Louisville. Okay. No training, nothing. So the Freedmen's Bureau, which was primarily effective on the East Coast, I'm sure they wanted to do more, but that's where they were most effective. The Freedmen's Bureau they realized if we're going to free people from in servitude and slavery, they need to have help. We need to, because I mean, think about it. Nobody cared about their education.
Right.
We can try to read, but I mean, just be honest. If you owned a bunch of slaves, are you worried about whether they can read and write? No, you worried about whether they can pick cotton. Am I doing I'm too plain?
No.
If I'm being too plain, just back me up.
No.
I just know if they can pick cotton and they can plow a field and run a team, and they don't need to be able to read. They don't need to be able to do math. So the Freedmen's Bureau realized they needed to be able to do those things.
Right.
So they started schools, and some of the adults didn't benefit, but the children were benefiting. Started training schools, and the guy who, as I understand it, was in charge of the Freedmen's Bureau was a guy whose last name was Howard. Do you know why that's relevant?
No.
Because Howard University became one of the most prolific schools for trying to change the trajectory. So when I think about Uncle Mishorn, I'm thinking what you're trying to do is like what he was a military officer, Howard. I think he was a colonel or a general. What he did, I mean, they started a university. They started training people in law. That's where you got so many of your early black lawyers and politicians, and of course, they also was a lot of pushback because a lot of those black lawyers went to southern towns and tried to, and in some ways were successful, tried to get involved in politics. So
this is a good way to segue into. I know there's a couple questions that Joe want to ask you, and it's a couple questions that I think go ahead, Joe. I'm gonna let you jump in there, and you thought the couple questions, maybe the one specific question, but I'm gonna see if Joe pick it out on himself. The one question I love to have them talk about that's out of my book.
Absolutely. So when you want to talk about hegemony?
Yes.
Okay. In your opinion, was the hegemony established during colonialism intentional or unintentional, and why has it persisted for 400 years if you find it to be intentional? So again, Dr. Wade, in your opinion, was the hegemony established during colonialism intentional or unintentional? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think hegemony is generally intentional. You know,
Okay.
it's you don't exert dominance over people or
Accidentally.
right. Um, uh, you know, uh, that's you're
So
talking
then,
about one social group over another.
absolutely.
And I think that there's multiple layers of it.
Right.
So if you look at the British system, so the reality is, New York wasn't settled by the British, but they got it right. We can go get in all that history, but Virginia was settled by the British.
Mhm.
It was a British colony.
Right.
Okay, and when they first came, the people that first came there, we know we know who they were. They were adventurers,
Wealthy,
entitled,
entitled,
looking
elitist.
for. Well, let's face it. I mean, the United Kingdom is a landlocked place. So here was this amazing, lush, you know, wildlife and fish and
Right.
lumber and
Right.
just
Right.
resources. And all they had to do was kill the native population in order to
And
take that.
and that's
And
the birth of the Bacon Rebellion. That's where the birth
oh,
of
sure.
Bacon Rebellion.
So if you look at the hegemony starts right there because they built Jamestown in one of the most populated areas, just over. So I'll give you a great example. It'd be like saying, "Oh no, we're starting a new colony, and we're going to start it in Prospect, but that's not Louisville." Well, it's not Louisville, but we all know that it is, right?
Right.
So that's what they did with Jamestown. They started it right next to a very populated area for Native Americans. Okay, so we're going to have conflict, aren't we?
Right.
Right.
I mean, we start a new colony in Prospect. There's going to be conflict. And
There's
that's
going to be
what
problems. There's going to be
so
some
the first
issues.
hegemony was this military power, because one of the other things you have to realize is the Jamestown colony, the king did not like send his army over there to start a colony. That was private investment. Okay, so basically the bankers bankrolled starting a new colony, which is exactly how it would happen today if they were going to start a new colony, right? So they had all this money behind them, and they basically brought their own army. That's why you had militia.
That's why the militia was
Okay.
birthed.
And the Second Amendment people love this when you get into this conversation, but they're right on this.
Right.
The government said, no, we can't protect you. Our military is not going to be able to protect you all the way across the ocean over there in Virginia. So you can have your own army. All right. So now you got a private army. So we still have them, right? We still have militias. Our Constitution actually protects them, but we also have other militias, of Blackwater and all that stuff, right? So that was the first hegemony, the European construct, if you will, on the Native Americans. Okay.
And the hegemony really came out of the idea that the dominant culture was able to name that they were white and you were white, but you were poor white. Okay. And
right. So then
you were able to manage the all non-white folks for the good of the rich folks, and that's where the movie Roots come out of.
Right. But there's another layer before you get to imported people from Africa, because so what happens is they immediately start realizing there's so much resources in North America, especially in Virginia. They can't get it and put it on ships fast enough. They can't grow it fast enough. They can't grow tobacco. Was a lot of people became wealthy growing tobacco.
There's another question. Our time getting short here, so I want to make sure we get a couple of things in. Joe, do you see why I brought this brother on? He's a wealth of knowledge and everything. And what's so unique about it? And he's not even really showed you just how down he with the brothers and everything. He can get really down with the brothers and everything, and talk some stuff that there's history here that he shared with me about the West End and the community here. But I want to, Joe, is there one more question you want to ask him as we getting close to closing out?
Sure. Let's find out, and this ties into this wealth of information that he has. Why is it vital to unlearn the history of the past in order to relearn for the future, Dr. Wade?
Well, I think we have to realize what do we know? One of the things that happens to all of us, my wife and I, this is a constant conversation we have. What do we really know? We're so propagandized that stuff that we think we know, then we find out later we didn't really know it. It wasn't really real. It didn't really happen.
Right.
And so that's why when we talk about the history of how we got to you asked me about hegemony. So the second wave comes in because all these rich people in Virginia realize they need labor. So they start bringing over indentured service. I'll wrap this real quick so you can get this. They start bringing over indentured servants. Okay. But they were protected by the law. You could only keep an indentured servant 7 years legally. Now they were violating that too, because when you got your own army, you can do what you want. But then they found out that they could bring slaves from Africa, and they didn't fall under the protection of that the servants fell under.
But but we got to add in the Atlantic trade too, because they no longer could go to Africa and get slaves. So America became wise and started on the 15 slave states, especially Virginia, how to manufacture their own slaves.
100%.
And that's no place, hybrid.
No place was more viable than Oldham County, Kentucky. Don't let anybody ever tell you different.
Oh, is that right?
Oldham County, Kentucky was deep in the slave trade.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. I brought this up in a ministerial meeting. They said they're going to try to fix the background, and we're going to apologize to everybody. I said, great. What did you start with the name of your mascot for your county? The Colonels. Colonel Oldham is famous. You know what he said? It's not a good day until I've killed an Indian before breakfast. And they named a county in this state after him. And do you know what they did since I've said something to him about it? They built a statue over there of him. They don't really care about it. You talk about hegemony. It's not gone away. You still have the wealthy construct.
We have different layers of what's going on and what's going on. So as we get ready to close out, how much time we got, Joe?
Got about just a few minutes, and then we'll do a wrap up.
So I didn't get you to tell me which chapter, man. I want to hear
let's just hear, whatever you've read from Uncle Mishorn's book. Give us a synopsis of any one of the chapters that you may have read.
Yeah, I didn't delve into for tonight. I didn't prepare to just kind of get into something specific, but just more of a broad brush of the book. First, I would encourage you to read the book, whoever you are. It's a good read. It's a well-written book, and it'll challenge you to think. That's the thing that I enjoyed the most about the read. He tells his story, and
get in personal. Yeah,
it's not a different story than everybody else. Everybody kind of thinks, "Oh, my story was really bad," and it probably was. But that's why I love that you told the story. I really think that we do disservice to people when we write a book. We don't tell the story. You told the story, and it's so real. I love when you got into your experience in the military. How many young men grew up in whatever environment, and then they found themselves in the military? That's not you talk about a hegemony. That is not an environment to protect you. It is to dominate you. Right. And they don't really care. My military friends might get upset with me, but it's okay. They don't really care if you wash out. In fact, they want you to wash out if you're going to wash out, because they want to get rid of the ones that don't meet the core.
It's about the strong. Only the strong survive.
Only the strong survive.
And they'll wash you out in a heartbeat. Actually, everything is set up to wash you out. Okay, that's
Right.
the whole intent of the military, which a lot of people don't understand. That you absolutely right. If it hadn't been for the military, as I'm going to do a little close, I appreciate you acknowledging the military, because it's Joe says that every time you get me in a conversation and everything, oh, I'm going to bring up the military. It ain't no doubt, okay? Because the military is like my father. I didn't have a real father in my life, so when my mother put me in the military, I contributed to the military as being my dad, my artificial dad. I needed that structure. I needed that in my life and everything. And it prepared me to come back into the.
Let me say,
yeah, I appreciate that, man.
We do
I
too.
want to thank you, Bernie, for being, meeting you has helped me to appreciate the importance of never being afraid to talk to people outside your norm. Okay.
100%.
Sometimes
Yes.
people, you know what I mean? Sometimes
Yes.
people, and I'm gonna say this, and maybe Joe can read. I'm gonna let Joe respond to it, because what I'm about to say. What I notice, okay, so often since I've been out, is that people that look like me and Joe, okay, when they see someone like you, they are instantly the color construct. They're instantly intimidated without even having a conversation with you, okay. And
Really?
but what I have noticed though, that you have people in our society that when they smell weakness, when they smell lack of confidence, when they see it, instead of trying to build them up, they would take advantage of it. Joe, you know what I'm talking about, Joe?
Absolutely, and I think it's just it's kind of getting outside that box. Yesterday I'm a chef and caterer and such like that, and do food business and whatnot. And yesterday I had the privilege and the honor to do a private catering event for the owner of a very large distillery out in Franklin.
Nice.
And
Nice.
one of my partners that kind of is brokering this deal there, he said, Joe, one of the things about you, he said, you handled yourself so well. And he said, I was wondering where you were even going to stand as you gave, the speech and spoke up and made the toast and all of that. And he said, you stood right by the owner who was at the head of the table. He said, you stood by him and, you did it as if you belonged there. And
Well, you do, obviously, right?
Absolutely.
You belong there if you believe it in your head.
I mean, because there's no difference.
Right.
He's a man just like me.
100%.
Absolutely. And Dr. Wade, I do have a question. Has anybody ever told you that you look like Jay Leno?
Yeah. Poor guy.
Now that we see your full head of hair,
Yeah.
then yeah, you definitely could be Jay Leno's.
You know what? Until you just said that,
brother.
I did not. Yeah, I can see the joke. I can
Hey,
see
I'll,
the Jay
I'll,
Leno.
I'll tell you a funny story real quick. I was
Okay.
preaching in Montgomery, Alabama. It was an all-black church. My wife and I are the only white people there, right? And I can get with it. So, I mean, I was preaching at about Mach 3. I mean, just laying back. And they were all on their feet, and they were hollering. And they're like, they started going, Rod Parsley, Rod Parsley, Rod Parsley. And I was like, oh, sit down. It's not that good. Is that the only white guy you all know?
Hey,
so
Bernie.
much fun with that.
Hey, Bernie, listen up, man. And the reason I led what they're talking about, you have never, sometimes you get around people and you can tell if they're faking it. They're not really genuine around folks and everything. I have never felt that way around you, man. You've always been authentic, and I appreciate you being who you are and everything. We're gonna have to do a part 2. Don't let you. You don't have to be a stranger.
Yeah, we'll have him back on the show.
Oh yeah, and I do want you to brush up and read a little bit about that, because I want you to dive in. I want
we can do that.
I want you to dive in a couple chapters, because I want your real deep intellectual point of view, and a couple chapters that really stood out that you liked about my book and things. So with that being said, folks, this is, we want to thank our special guests. We're going to try to bring them back. This has been the show, I Ain't Joe Black. Uncle Me showing the author, I'm Not Joe Black America. You can visit my new website,
Time to unlearn to relearn.
Relearn.com. Time to unlearn to relearn.com. And I am a freeman.
All right now.
And with that being it, I'm out. What you say, Joe?
Hey, we'll see y'all next time right here on the I Ain't Your Black Show.
Thank you,
Peace.
Bishop.
Thank you, guys. Love you all. God bless you. Appreciate your time tonight.
Get ready for I Ain't Your Black. This is the podcast that offers healing insights and epiphanies, discussing and reviewing everything others are afraid to talk about. It's all about what is right for us. I ain't your new black. I ain't your old black. I ain't your future black. America, I ain't your black. And now, the host of I Ain't Your Black, Mr. Just As Joe and Uncle Mishorn.
We got a mean like.
Man, you love causing trouble.